Representative Castro, thanks for your time. So we all know that you're running for Senate now. Tell us a little bit about yourself and also where we're at today.
Okay, so my name's Manny Gregory Tenorio Castro. We're here at my grandparents' house, my paternal grandparents' residence, the place that I grew up here in Aslito, Saipan. You know, most people, they know me as Gregory, so some people wonder why I have two names. Manny is my maternal grandfather, former Congressman Manuel Aguto Tenorio, mostly known as Manny Brown. He served several years in the legislature. He was also president of UMDA, entrepreneur, agriculture major. And then Gregory is actually, I'm named after also my paternal grandfather, which is Tungoro Palacios Castro. Spent a lot of time with all my grandparents. In fact, my grandma Rosa Atalik Mundo Castro and Tungoro raised me up here at this place. You know, back then it was more of a farm. A lot of chickens, a lot of goats, pigs especially, and a lot more fruit trees and vegetables. So despite the big academic background, I also have a lot of grassroots and farming and construction in me. But my grandparents raised me here, but when my grandmother Nansai passed away in 2000, early 2000s, I decided to move to the state of Oregon to further my education. It was actually my grandpa Manny that really encouraged me to further my education. He was most of my family, even Sister Remedio, my grandfather's sister, was a nun for the Mercedarian Missionaries of Belize. They all stress the importance of education, and as a way not only out of poverty but to improve the livelihood of yourself and especially your community. So right after the 8th grade, it was a very difficult choice, but I decided to move to Oregon, and I live with my aunt and in Gresham, Oregon. My parents were here. They supported me when they could, but it was very hard living in the States without your parents. But I always the end goal was to finish my education and come back and serve my community, and that's exactly what I did. In 2009 or 2008, I graduated with my bachelor's from Eastern Oregon University. And my first job was the enrollment manager at the Northern Marianas College. I stayed at the college for about 12 years. In the middle of it, I worked on my master's degree. While I was at the college, I was actually the youngest manager. I was the enrollment manager. It's a very critical position tied to accreditation. I've served as enrollment manager, outreach counselor, financial aid counselor, registrar, director of admissions, and my last post was director of enrollment services. So I did spend a lot of time, mostly in management positions at the Northern Marianas College, and I stayed there because I saw the value in what we were doing on a daily basis and the impact that we were making for our community. What led me to decide to run for office? It was always in the plan. My grandfather, again, a longtime congressman, my dad's brother, also a longtime congressman, uncles and aunts, and so public service was always something that I wanted to do. And seeing where our government was heading, with all everything's been exposed with all the challenges and I felt like it was time to help close the gap between what our government is providing and what our people expect it to be providing. And that is why last election I decided to run in Precinct 2. I ran with Congressman John Paul. It's been a very good working relationship. I love Precinct 2. It's actually it's one of the precincts with the most need, but just because I'm deciding to run for the Senate doesn't mean that I'm going to forget Precinct 2. I'm already helping a lot of the other precincts, so I figured, like this would be, might as well take that leap and serve in the Senate so that we can be working together to make things happen.
I wanted to ask you to elaborate more on that decision. After just a 1-year term in the House, what was the tipping point for you to move on to the Senate? So
actually, during the last election, the initial plan was I was supposed to run for the Senate seat. Some people might have said, that's too soon, but the reason why I wanted to run for the Senate seat is because the Senate's responsibility is really more of the operations of the government. The Senate is responsible for vetting the candidates that serve in all the line agencies. The House is more of revenue and appropriations, and so I always had my eye on the Senate because I feel like that was the challenge that we were facing. We have a lot. What I would say is we need to right size our government. There's a lot of duplication of services, regulations that need to be overhauled, and the Senate allows you more time to really look and investigate and try to figure out how we can make this work efficiently. And that's actually my major. Management, leadership, and organizational behavior, both a bachelor's in business and a master's in business administration. But when the seat in Precinct 2 opened up, obviously a Senate race is really expensive. As a single dad, it's going to require a lot of my time and also finances. So, I talked to a few of my relatives and people in the committee, and like either way they would have supported, but they also supported deciding to go in the House first and then run for Senate. I'm not, some people may say, it's only been one term, but if you look at other senators, Senator Edith never served in the House. She went straight from working in the government to being a senator. Senator Karina was only a few months in the House and then ran for Senate. Senator Babauta was also just one term in the House and then ran for Senate. So I'm just asking for the same opportunity that was provided to others as well.
And what would you say has been your biggest accomplishment in your term so far, and what legislation have you passed?
So as a congressman in Precinct 2, when we ran on helping fix the infrastructure, right? Because in Precinct 2, there's a lot of flooding. We have sewer issues. We still have those issues. But within the first year, we were able to work with the administration to address a lot of the flooding. So if you go by William S. Regis or Susupi, all the areas that have had issues with like flooding for years, it's all been addressed. We had sewer issues in Precinct 2 in Chalancanoa because it's one of the oldest sewer systems in our Commonwealth. And the thing about CK is it's really small, right? It's close. The lots are small, so but even within the first few months of being in office, we addressed that. The main like Beach Road, Susupi Beach Park, a lot of these amenities are being improved. And those were all in the works, but it's happening at a rapid pace. We have a large issue with drugs in our precinct, and we were able to put more emphasis on outreach for that. So we brought the substance abuse and recovery program down to our precinct. So instead of it being out of reach, we have the SAR program in our precinct. There's still a lot of work to be done, but I feel like, you know, precinct 2, with all the issues, we were able to accomplish a lot within a small time frame. And it actually, I'm always up for challenges, and that's also what attracts me to support island-wide, because there's a lot of systemic issues. We can't just keep taking a band-aid approach and be appropriating here and there. If we don't fix a lot of the regulations that are causing delays in services, that are barriers to entry for businesses or barriers to entry for residents to something as simple as building a house. We really need to streamline a lot of those regulations. And a lot of these agencies, when they were created, they started to go beyond the scope of what they were, what the intent and purpose of the law that created them, spelled out. So those are the things that we have to deal with. In terms of bills, there's another reason why we need a member of our team, like in the House, in the Senate, is because we have so many bills that are just sitting. And we could say that everyone's saying that, but it's the truth. I had a food pantry tax credit bill that's in the was introduced. A beverage container act bill. So, permitting, a bill to address permitting, so that because some of these structures are existing structures. So like, if let's say you have a public restroom that needs to be fixed, why do you need to apply for a permit already? It was all those assessments were already done when they built the building. So this is unnecessary. It's unnecessary processes that are affecting the overall flow. So I feel like as a member of the Senate, we can help really push a lot of the bills that are in the House.
I did want to ask about your party affiliation, because you are with the Democrats.
Mm-hmm.
Why was that important for you?
So I'm still with the independents. In fact, when we ran last election, we ran as a coalition. Not initially for the top seat, because Tina was running, Governor Palacios was running, but we were all, we had one objective, and that was to end corruption and misuse of public funds and all of these challenges that we were dealing with. I mean, we had millions of dollars in different federal funding, from ARPA to other funding sources. And if we didn't have that joint objective to get that situated, we probably would have been in a worse situation than we are right now. We're trying to pick up all the pieces, but so I've always been a conservative Democrat, I would say. My grandma Rosa, my grandma Nansai, was very involved in the Popular Party, that was the Democrat Party of the CNMI at that time. And you say diehard Democrat. Like she would say in Chamorro, if you cut my hand, it's gonna be blue. Very, very feisty lady, but had a really good heart. That grandma, my grandma. On my mom's side, my grandpa was a Republican, a GOP. One of, like, you know, his siblings were, Uncle Pete A was one of the founding members. Former Governor Teno was also one of the founding. So being immersed in both sides, you can see the different values, and you know, there are some things that I might agree more on the Democrat side, and there are some things that the conservative side makes more sense. So, but when I really thought about it, you know, I first got involved with the Democrat Party when Franklin Babauta ran for office. He was a veteran, and I, you know, like, you don't become a lieutenant colonel in the Army without getting all that leadership and all these trainings, and I felt like someone like Franklin should be in government. You know, Franklin, eventually I was involved in his committee, and then Selena, you know, the next term decided to run, and Selena's Franklin's you know, wife, so I was more involved in Selena's committee. So to the point where people were already labeling me as a Democrat, even though I didn't officially join the Democrat Party, but because I was helping a candidate who stood for so much. Like, if it wasn't for Senator Selena Babauta, we wouldn't have seen all the misuse of public funds. We wouldn't be where we are today, and we're not in a good situation, like, you know, because of all of that. But, you know, we could have been in a worse situation, and Senator Selena, Rep Selena at that time, I felt like she did what she said she was gonna do for the people, and really fight for the people. And if you look at, you know, over the years, I mean, with the independents, as we were running together, we always say coalition, right? So if it's a true coalition, then it should be no issue with me running with Diego Camacho and Ed Probst and the other Democrats, because we all have one objective, and that's, you know, for a better Commonwealth.
I know your platform's online. I did want to ask you what you hope to achieve in the Senate that you couldn't achieve in the House. So
in the House, it's a really short term, like, it's 2 years, and the disadvantage is that for some of the bigger issues, you need time to really get to the bottom of those issues, and within 1 year, you know, that thing, like, goes by real fast, and then you're back to campaigning. With the Senate, you'll have more time to really, you have about 3 years. So you have more time to meet with the departments, or have the departments meet with you to really look at, hey, is this bill working? There's some bills that even my grandfather introduced, and it became public law, and it was never enforced or never implemented, but it was public law. And, you know, that's what the Senate's role is also, like, to check in on those departments and making sure that they're doing what the law requires them to do. So, like, one example was the recycling bill, the litter problem. You know, litter might not seem like a big problem, but when resources are tight and you're you know, taxing people because there's so much trash to collect, so you're taking, you know, more money from consumers, and you're putting it into you know, an revolving account, or appropriating it to a department, so that department can go and pick up trash and clean the litter, when you can, if we implemented that law that my grandfather introduced, it's a Recycling Act of 1999, it would have reduced the need for excessive taxes and reduced the need for public works and Parks and Rec to be going out there and cleaning up a lot of this trash, because it puts the incentive on the people to clean up after themselves. Just like many states have a 5-cent, 10-cent redemption, even Palau, the Republic of Palau has that. So, you incentivize people for bringing their trash back and recycling it, rather than taxing them and having a department. I really believe in small government and bigger private sector. So I know there's more to.
Anything else you'd like to add? When it comes to your platform, is there like one particular issue that is especially big for you on this campaign?
So I'll just list it out. One is a responsive and organized government. So when you look at a lot of the processing in our agencies, like if you wanted to open up a small business today, you go to zoning. Sometimes it can take a few days just to get a inquiry or a clearance. That's one step. Then you have to go, this is physically like walking, even being in a digital age, we're still doing carbon copy and all these paper processing. We haven't evolved, even though for some agencies the law requires them to evolve, right? So just with the business license, there's sometimes I refer people like, hey, apply in Tinian or apply in Rhoda for a business license, because it'll happen faster. And it shouldn't be like that. It should be like most places where if you wanted to set up shop here, you can apply online and submit all your documents and boom. But we're talking about policies and procedures that are being the response time is so long that whether it's a federal grant and you get a grant to fix the road or a sidewalk, like you have 3 months and all those permitting stuff hasn't processed, so it delays the construction time. Now the construction company is scrambling to get the project done because they have to spend the money by a certain deadline. And then where does that go with our quality, right? You're rushing through things. So there's a ton of issues out there, and it all stems with the policies and regulations that we have in place. I introduced a digital economy advancement bill not too long ago, and I'm hoping that will go through because it opens the door for more e-commerce, right? And when I was in Rhoda just a few weeks ago for the budget hearings, and I was looking at all the potential in Rhoda. And I'm a congressman from Precinct 2, but seeing other municipalities suffer, that also hurts, right? Like when it doesn't have to be that way. And man, it's a struggle, like just to see. And we can just be relaxing and saying, oh, the mayor's gonna take care of that, but when you get elected, even though let's say I'm the representative for Precinct 2, that doesn't mean I have to just all do Precinct 2 laws. Once we're all elected, we can, when we introduce laws, it affects the whole Commonwealth. And so that bill, that for example, that digital economy advancement, like that wasn't exclusive for Saipan. That was like for Tinian and Rhoda, Saipan, everybody in general in our Commonwealth. With all the abandoned buildings in Rhoda, you can do things like a virtual office. We have a USPS there, and we can encourage more people to headquarter in Rhoda, Tinian, or Saipan, because our tax system is so generous. And we had that once upon a time. You had billionaires moving their company to the CNMI. But what happened that caused that to change? And if you dig into the laws and the regulation, there are self-interest laws that were put in place to protect one individual or one. And I've seen it with my own 2 eyes. Even at the college level, there was a law that was specifically, when you look at the way it was written, it was specifically designed to benefit sometimes even 1 or 2 people. And that's what we have to keep an eye out for, because things go through the legislature so quickly, and if you don't have someone like really saying, hey, what's this, or what's going on, and I'm not saying I'm the only one that's doing that, there's a lot of us that are, but it's so easy if you don't have people really looking out, you know. It's so easy for things to slip under the rug, and that's actually real life situations that have affected us. I speak to contractors all the time. Like, I have friends that own construction companies, and they're like, Congressman, sometimes I wonder, why is the government even contracting us to do this project when their maintenance staff can do it themselves, right? And you hear champions like Secretary of DOC Anthony Torres like talking about, like, hey, we had this kitchen since our new building was created, but we've never used the kitchen. It's always been contracted. But you see, like, those kind of thinking, that's the kind of thinking we need, the lower house and the upper house, and even the administration. We need more champions in all these line item agencies, and if we have that, we wouldn't be dealing with a lot of these situations. If we have qualified people in those positions that are good managers, human capital centric, taking care of their employees below them, and at the same time taking care of the community, we won't be dealing with a lot of the issues that we're dealing with today.
All right, Representative Castro, we just have about 4 minutes left. Yep. I wanted to just open the floor for you to directly address the audience, your constituents, on why they should vote for you come November.
So to our voters out there, I would say, if you look at one, like my background, it's never been about the title. It's never been about the money. There's very few of us that went off island for school. It's sad to say, but very few come back because, the salary is low. There's a lot more amenities. But just like our CNMI national anthem, that really means something, to come back and give to our community. When I was working at Eastern Oregon University, that university paid for me, flew me to Oregon to be their center director and manage EOU Gresham and EOU Portland. And it wasn't as meaningful working for EOU as it was working for NMC and serving our people, because you're able to see the impact that you are making. Our people really need help. And our median household income, everything is still really low. Every day I see more and more of our people renting when they should be owning homes. Article 12 is designed to make sure that our NMDs are taken care of. But why are they not building homes? Why are they renting from non-NMDs? And there's nothing wrong with that, but when you see what our parents, the type of economy, the type of livelihood that our parents had in the 90s and 80s, we need to make sure our policies are designed to create that kind of livelihood. And I ask for your vote of confidence this coming election, so that we can help create the Commonwealth that we deserve. Thank you, Zansizus Masi.